Thank you for that. Um, yeah, so quick introduction. I'm one of the co-founders of Crimson Agility. I've been doing managed services and providing support development services for clients in the e-commerce industry since about 2008. So been doing this a long time. And
Yeah, Josh Ward. I've been with Nexus, now Liquid Web, or shortly to be Liquid Web, since 2014. I've made a couple of stops away from there, but we've been working with Magento for I guess a decade now, which sounds crazy to say, and largely in the hosting space.
excellent. So just a little bit about Crimson Agility. We're an e-commerce consulting and development firm, and I know there are others here and some really good ones as well. But we basically have three practice areas. We help clients with new implementations or migrations to the Magento platform. We provide managed services and support, and we'll be talking a little bit about our experiences and what we found that clients value. And then we also provide digital marketing services. So these are all services where we're helping our clients to grow their business, make good decisions, and hopefully be successful.
Yeah, and Liquid Web, brief history there. They've been around for 25 years and provide a really broad range of hosting services, managed hosting services, managed infrastructure. We've been running those brands separately since 2019. And so the brands merge, but that original, Nexus being around since, the Magento space since 2008, hosting, hosting Magento since literally the very beginning and all of that history. Most of the engineers that have been on our team that whole time are still with us, and so all that Magento knowledge and expertise just sort of carries over, even though the brand is going to look different. Yeah, we're excited to be back on the road at Magento events. Fun.
Excellent. So topic today is managed services. We're both Liquid Web and Crimson Agility. We provide managed services. We deliver managed services to our clients, and I'm sure there are a lot of people in here where you're in the business of delivering managed services, and really that is a set of comprehensive services that provide security, infrastructure, sustaining support, ongoing development. Ultimately, Philip's presentation was great, and he talked about the evolution of the industry. And in e-commerce, if you're not evolving and if you're not innovating, you're not just standing still, but you're going backwards. And so we're here in terms of managed services to help our clients evolve and innovate and continue growing and moving forward. I've been on both sides of managed services. Early in my career, I worked for Lotus. Anybody fans of Lotus 1, 2, 3? But I worked for Lotus a long time ago, IBM, Microchip Technology. I was a purchaser of managed services. I sat down with agencies and interviewed them and then engaged with them and worked closely with them. So I got a sense of what I valued during those relationships. And now I'm providing and delivering managed services, and we have incorporated into our methodologies, the way that we engage, and our guiding values, the things that I valued when I was engaging with consultants, professional services organizations. And so some of those things that I learned, I have tested over many years providing managed services to my clients to see if they value the same things. And I found that they do value a lot of the same things that I valued. So Josh, let me ask the first question to you as it relates to the managed services, the sustaining support and services that you guys provide. What will Liquid Web do to make a migration process as pain-free as possible to your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is the question that I usually get at the end. I'm in sales, right? So at the end of the sales cycle, right before we sign an agreement, is usually when this question comes up. It should be those of you out there looking for these services, I would move that way higher in your priority list, right? This is the how well does my hosting company communicate with me from the get-go, right? Who am I going to be interacting with from a support standpoint? Do they have a plan for how migrations go, right? So we've done this tens of thousands of times, right? Lots and lots of migrations, lots of experience. At some point, we should have codified that, and we should be able to paint you a really clear picture of what that usually looks like, and also be able to call out maybe where some of the pitfalls are, right? We should be able to talk through that. Maybe not all the specifics, but we should be able to outline that for you in the beginning. So it's really where, if you're going to have, I mean, communication is key in any relationship. Certainly, I would say that's true with your hosting provider. That communication piece, I think, begins at migration. That's the first question I would ask, or maybe the second question. I know everybody wants to jump to price and what does this cost, and what's my commitment, and how big is this going to be? But migration should definitely be up there. As part of that plan, there's some key pieces, like what's the lift for the hosting company? How much of the heavy lifting are they going to do? Sort of what are their responsibilities during that process, and what are yours or your agency partners' responsibilities? And then how involved are they during the QA and testing process, right? Because very rarely do we ever just pick a site up, move it over to a new server, and then turn it on and everything's great, right? There's a lot of optimization that can go on, a lot of improvements that can be made, and certainly a lot of bugs that can be worked out. And the hosting company should have a seat at that table, right? So I would definitely recommend you sort of make sure those boxes are checked as you're having that conversation.
Yeah, agree. I think that our relationship with Liquid Web and many of the clients that we work on together, it's definitely a collaboration, and you're looking for a hosting partner, a managed services or development and support partner where we can work together, we're acquainted, we are well aware of each other's capabilities, and when one takes over from the other and vice versa. So definitely a collaboration.
Yeah, so let me ask you a question, David. What should an online business look for when selecting a support and development partner?
Yeah, excellent. I think the one thing that we all think about is experience, right? We come in and we want to know, are you certified? What partners are you partnered with? What are your prior successes? Do you have reference clients? That's really important and is the easy one, right? We all, when we talk to a new um, uh, either a managed services provider or we're a managed services provider and we're talking to a client. They want to know those things. But the other things that are very important, and I think that resonate with clients, they might not know it when you're talking to them, is methodology. Do you have a well-defined methodology, a series of steps, processes, and deliverables that will allow them to manage and measure progress? Because ultimately, people want to feel engaged. They want to feel like they're part of something, and they're not wondering, are they even working on my stuff? So methodology that ultimately is well defined and has a series of steps and processes that they can count on, I think also contributes to transparency. If you have a portal, you're tracking requests, they can see notes, they can see progress, there are status changes, there are times where they get involved. All of those things lead to transparency, and ultimately transparency results and facilitates communication. They see something, they want to ask a question, they want to reach out and clarify or course correct. So I think the methodology, transparency, communications are things when you're looking for a managed services provider, whether it's Liquid Web, a firm like Crimson Agility, or many of the other firms that may be here today that are sellers of managed services. If you're a buyer, these are things to look for. These are things to ask your managed service partners to provide for you. Okay, so in the world of e-commerce, you hope there's never a disaster, but if you don't plan for one, shame on you. So, Josh, what happens in the case of a disaster?
Yeah, there's a few things. I will say this is the one we get a lot is the infamous what if a meteor hits the data center? That that like we understand what that means when you ask us that, but there's other ways, right, to sort of formulate that question and kind of get to the point, right? The first thing is redundancy, and that can be tricky with e-commerce, right? Database replication across geographies but you can get super complicated with that and get like full-on redundancy, maybe if it works. That's really complicated and really difficult, and doesn't, like I said, always work. There's also a big price tag there. So what you're looking for is, at least from a data center standpoint, is there redundancies built into the data center, right? Even if you're working with an Amazon or a hyperscaler of any kind, understanding sort of what are their best practices as they go and build these data centers, and acquire new ones. So redundancy at the data center level, multiple generators, power sources, redundancy from a carrier perspective, right? Knowing that there's more than one fiber provider coming into a building can be really helpful. Redundancy at the hardware level, right? A lot of hosting, despite being called cloud, is still on actual metal, like actual physical servers. Redundant power supplies, right? RAID 10 on your hard drives. There's redundancies through sort of every level of the hosting process. And so asking again, when you're choosing a provider, making sure that they're in tune with what redundancies are necessary, and sort of where are they going above and beyond in those ways. Backups. This is where this is very much a shared responsibility, right? So we should be doing things to back up your data, right? We should provide you with an easy and reliable backup solution that is away from wherever your production site lives. That's something that we should do as your hosting service provider. You should also have a backup, right? Days of floppy disks, you would have one. For those of you who don't know what floppy disks are, they're like square little pieces of plastic. Yeah. But you would have, or at least I remember college days, you would have I would have 4 floppy disks for everything that I was working on that was important, right? The one I took to class, the one I kept in my backpack, the one that was probably next to a computer, still in my computer at home, and then I probably left one in my car, right? But if I had 4 copies of it, I was probably going to be okay. And I don't, it's like rudimentary and very simple, but like your backup plan should sort of be like, where are the 4 places you keep your data, right? That's both from a what if you do have a disaster, right? What if something does happen in the data center? Can you take those site files and restore them somewhere else? And so they need to be offsite. They need to be in the hands of your hosting provider. They need to be in your hands, right? And they need to be on some physical media, probably somewhere that you can get your hands on in sort of a worst case scenario. So backups are important. And then lastly, having a disaster recovery plan, right? We can point you in the direction as a hosting company of what that looks like. We can make some suggestions on what you should do. Typically, DR means more money, right? That's like if you have a true DR plan in place, you're probably paying an additional 20 to 60%, right, off your base from a hosting provider perspective. That's probably what it costs to implement that. But it's like insurance, right? It's just in case you don't want to be stuck, and then the cost for your site being down for hours or days or weeks at a time when you don't have a plan in place for when that happens that's a business killer. You're not making money. So David, what are the keys to a productive partnership that yields positive results?
Yeah, the first slide we talked, or I answered questions about what type of questions to ask to hire a partner. The keys to success, I think, are what I call continuity of care. And I don't know if this term is used in a lot of different industries, but my wife was a registered nurse for 30 years, and she used the term a lot in talking with staff and other caregivers. And continuity of care means that you're building a relationship with a patient and you're learning everything about them. And then tomorrow, when your shift starts again, you're going to work with that same patient until they're dismissed or they get out of the hospital and they no longer need your care. So the continuity of care ensures that there's a relationship, there's understanding, there's some engagement, and that patient's going to get the best care possible compared to having a new person every day. So how does that translate into managed services? Ultimately, we are providing relationships. We're ensuring that they have a single point of contact. We're ensuring that they work with the same team of developers all the time. And I tell our clients when we engage with them, we're going to learn more about your business over the next several weeks, understanding what's important to you, what do you value, what are you looking to do, what are your goals and objectives, the nuances of their business, of their industry, of their products, of their customers. And then hopefully our part is in the context of that, we can inspire them, right? We're the experts on the platform, on the technology, on the infrastructure. And if we can inspire them to do things that help them grow their business to be successful, then we're doing our job. So that continuity of care, the goal of it is to build relationships, create engagement, create context and history that we both share. And so that is a very important part of long-term engagements, as opposed to every day is a new person you're talking to, and then you're just task takers. Then you're just taking a request and fulfilling it. You may not even know what it is the client's trying to accomplish. And so the continuity of care and creating those relationships is a way to work together and help the client make good decisions because you understand more and more every day the nuances of their business. All right, another important element of managed services are what are the guidelines around those, or SLAs as they say in the industry. Josh, tell us a little bit about what are the support guidelines at Liquid Web.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to kind of play off something you said earlier. Like transparency becomes really important in this sort of area of hosting or choosing a host or working with a host. Really quick SLAs, right? Or somebody says, we'll get back with you in 5 minutes, right? Well, if you have a massive issue with your database, that response in 5 minutes is probably going to be like, thanks for sending your ticket in. We'll get back to you in another 30 minutes or something, right? Which is nice. You get an acknowledgement, but is maybe not, your problem is probably not going to be fixed, right? And so having discussions, transparent discussions about what's your initial response SLA, right? How fast are you going to acknowledge that I sent you something? When am I going to get an actual response from a person that isn't just sort of like, hey, the box, your message hit our ticket box or whatever. And then, in general, right, can you bracket me some expectations for, sort of a tier 1, I need an IP address whitelisted, or a tier 3, tier 4 type of situation where I have a site down. What are the expected response times and sort of what reactions are you going to take? Those, the nuances of an SLA become really important there. Understanding like how they train or how a hosting company trains their technicians, right? In our case, they are trained on Magento. They understand the application, right? Not all hosting companies provide that for all applications, right? We do a lot less training for things like, transparently, WordPress than we do Magento, right? We train super heavy on Magento because it's a much more complicated application. So understanding sort of what that training process is and what the experience level of the technicians are is important. And then how far into the application space will the hosting company play, right? Some will not step past the LAMP stack, right? If you get above sort of the core of the server operating system, they don't like, well, that seems like an application problem. I'm not going to be involved anymore, right? We very much look for that gray space, right? Where does the application and the LAMP stack, where do they interact? And then we will get involved there. Now we don't write code, right? And that's where sort of the transparent communication between the three entities that are involved, right? Yourself as the merchant, us as the hosting provider, and then your agency partner, right? We all get together. We can turn that gray space into some real clear space, and get to a resolution. So just the willingness of being able to kind of play around in that typical gray area, I think, becomes really important. And then lastly, and we've already kind of touched on this, right? What happens when the unexpected happens, right? How are you going to respond? And that kind of goes back to some of the SLA stuff. But again, hosting companies should be very transparent about these items, right? Because this piece is the day-to-day. This is how you interface and interact with your hosting company. Normal win. So David, what contributes to a successful services partnership?
So this is, from a merchant, a distributor, a manufacturer's, our client's perspective. What are the things that are going to resonate with them? What are they looking for from us? And the first, kind of like the experience, it's the easy one. They want high quality work. They want things to be done right the first time. Ultimately, with high quality work and the engagement, the continuity of care we talked about in the prior slides, is you'll become a trusted partner to them. You'll be someone that they collaborate with. They run ideas by you for feasibility. We have this idea. Can we do this with the platform? If it's Magento, answers of course. But we want to become that trusted partner. We want a place at the table when they're talking about what are their 2024 goals for the business. They might be revenue goals. There might be goals about customer acquisition, customer loyalty and retention. How do we increase average order value or lifetime value of customer? Those are all things, as a trusted partner, you're going to have a place at the table and help them make the right decisions. Thirdly, being proactive. I talk to clients all the time that are interviewing us. They're asking, we're looking for a partner that's going to be proactive, not that task taker. We're looking for someone that's going to be a consultant first. Tell us when when what we're proposing is not a good idea. Provide alternatives and suggestions and recommendations. So being proactive, pointing things out to them and not just waiting for something to break before we need to do anything. So we want to be proactive and be their experts as it relates to their platform, their technology. And as we get to know them and create that trusted partner relationship, we're also looking ahead to their goals and objectives. Everybody wants to work on the fun stuff, right? Nobody wants to be fixing a continuous parade of bugs or issues. You want to get those behind you, working with strong managed services providers like Liquid Web, Crimson Agility, and many of the other partners that are here this week. But everybody wants to work on the fun stuff that's going to promote growth and success within their business. And so you want to find a partner that is geared to help you to do that. Their purpose, whether it's Liquid Web, Crimson Agility, or others, the purpose is to help a merchant, distributor, or manufacturer be successful and grow their business online. So that's all we had. We have a few minutes if there are any questions. If you want to learn anything more about Liquid Web or Crimson Agility, there's a QR code there. But open to questions, either Josh or I, or if anybody has anything. Yes. We provide digital marketing services through all of the traditional channels. It could be paid advertising, email marketing, social media, but we also provide technical SEO. Having a development team is very instrumental in getting that done. And just traditional SEO, content optimization, content creation. Yes? Those two practices of ours are very synergistic. We have clients that we've worked with in providing support and development for years, and they come to us and they're like, help us with our email marketing. And then we'll bring a partner like Dot Digital to the table, and we'll assist with the initial setup and provide some strategy and plan to our clients and then let them execute on it. But we also have clients that want us to do everything for them. And so we'll create the content, newsletters, things like that, and help them in that capacity. So we can provide planning and strategy as well as the actual execution. It just depends on some clients just don't have the staff to do it all, and so they need our assistance. But yeah, both of those teams work really closely together, and then we have had clients that come to us looking for digital marketing services, and it ultimately turns into support and development services because the technical SEO issues are what's holding them back, and they need a developer to help address some of those. And I guess the best possible scenarios, we implement their site and then we continue providing support and development services and marketing services. Because to be frank, if you build a site, you should probably be spending 1.5 to 2 times as much in that first year marketing that site, right? You can't forget the marketing aspect of it. Best site in the world is not going to be successful without the marketing. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure being here, and I couldn't be more excited about Magento and the direction that things are heading. I've been doing this, like I said, since 2008. And I'm as excited today about the direction and the evolution of e-commerce, as much as I've ever been. So it's a great industry to be in.
Thanks, David.